comparing the current American economy to China's failing economy, a harbinger of what lies ahead. Introduction. The global economic order is changing. For decades, two nations have dominated the world economy more than any others, China and the United States. One rose rapidly through manufacturing, exports, and massive infrastructure investment. The other relied on consumer spending, innovation, finance, and global influence. For years, both appeared unstoppable. But today, cracks are forming. China's economy, once viewed as an unstoppable engine of growth, is now facing serious internal crises. And while the United States still holds global economic leadership, warning signs are beginning to appear beneath the surface. Debt is rising, housing is becoming unaffordable, demographics are shifting, and geopolitical tensions are increasing. This raises an uncomfortable question. Is the United States beginning to follow the same path that has led China into economic stagnation and instability? In this video, we'll compare China's economic decline with the current state of the American economy. We'll explore the warning signs, the shared vulnerabilities, and whether the U.S. can avoid the fate that China is now facing. Part 1. The rise and cracking of China's economic model. To understand where China is today, we need to understand how it got there. China's economic rise over the past 4 decades was unprecedented. Beginning in the late 1970s, economic reforms transformed China from a largely agrarian society into the world's manufacturing powerhouse. Factories multiplied, cities expanded at breathtaking speed, infrastructure projects reshaped the landscape, cheap labor, state-led investment, and export-driven growth lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty. For a time, the model worked, but rapid growth came at a cost. And now, those costs are becoming impossible to ignore. China's real estate collapse. One of the most serious threats to China's economy is its real estate crisis. Real estate became the backbone of China's growth model. Housing accounted for a massive share of GDP, local government revenue, and household wealth. Developers borrowed heavily to build sprawling apartment complexes and entire cities. Many of these homes were bought not to live in, but as speculative investments. But eventually, demand slowed. Developers like Evergrande began defaulting on loans. Construction stalled. Millions of apartments were left unfinished or empty. Property prices began to fall. This was catastrophic. Real estate was not just a housing issue. It was deeply tied to China's financial system. Banks, local governments, and households were all exposed. As confidence collapsed, consumer spending slowed. Local governments lost revenue, and financial stress spread throughout the economy. Debt is a growth engine and a trap. China's rapid expansion was fueled by debt. State-owned enterprises borrowed heavily. Local governments borrowed to finance infrastructure projects. Developers borrowed to expand endlessly. For years, rising growth masked the risks. But now, slowing economic activity has made that debt difficult to manage. As revenue declines, repayment becomes harder. As repayment becomes harder, confidence falls further. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. China now faces a massive debt overhang with limited tools to resolve it without triggering broader instability. Demographic decline and labor shortages. Another long-term problem is demographics. Decades of the one-child policy created a shrinking workforce and an aging population. Fewer young workers are entering the labor market. More elderly citizens need support. This puts pressure on pensions, healthcare systems, and productivity. Rising labor costs also weaken China's competitiveness in manufacturing. The workforce that once powered China's growth is shrinking. Demographics move slowly, but their impact is relentless. Geopolitical isolation and trade pressures. China's export-driven model is also under pressure. Trade tensions with the United States and other countries have disrupted supply chains. Technology restrictions have limited access to critical components. Global companies are diversifying away from China. At the same time, geopolitical tensions have made foreign investment more cautious. China has attempted to pivot toward domestic consumption, but that transition has been difficult and uneven. The result is slower growth, rising uncertainty, and reduced global influence. Part 2. The current state of the American economy. At first glance, the United States looks very different. The U.S. economy remains innovative. It controls the world's reserve currency. Its financial markets are deep and powerful. But beneath the surface, troubling similarities are emerging. Rising debt and fiscal strain. Like China, the United States has increasingly relied on debt to sustain growth. The national debt has surpassed $30 trillion. Government spending expanded rapidly following the COVID-19 pandemic, and deficits remain large. While the dollar's reserve status provides flexibility, it does not eliminate risk. At the household level, Americans are also deeply indebted. Mortgage balances are high. Student loan debt remains massive. Credit card debt is climbing. As interest rates rise, servicing this debt becomes more difficult. Debt that once felt manageable now feels suffocating. Housing stress in the United States. The U.S. housing market has not collapsed like China's, but it is under strain. Home prices surged during the pandemic due to low interest rates and limited supply. Investors poured into real estate. Speculation increased. Now, interest rates have risen sharply. Mortgage payments have increased dramatically. First-time buyers are locked out. Renters face rising rents with little relief. Housing affordability is near historic lows. While the U.S. does not suffer from massive ghost cities like China, the underlying issue is similar. Housing has become a speculative asset rather than a basic necessity. If prices stagnate or fall while debt remains high, the risk of instability increases. Demographic and workforce pressures. The United States also faces demographic challenges. The population is aging. Birth rates are declining. Baby boomers are retiring. This places pressure on Social Security, Medicare, and the labor force. At the same time, the nature of work is changing. Manufacturing jobs have declined. Gig work has increased. Many workers face unstable income, limited benefits, and little long-term security. While unemployment rates may appear low, job quality has deteriorated for many Americans. This weakens consumer confidence and economic resilience. Geopolitical risk and global competition. The U.S. is deeply embedded in global trade and geopolitics. Trade tensions with China continue. Conflicts like the war in Ukraine disrupt energy and food markets. Rising competition from emerging economies challenges American dominance. Protectionist policies and supply chain reshoring may increase costs and reduce efficiency. Like China, the U.S. faces a world that is becoming more fragmented and less predictable. Part 3. Key similarities and critical differences. There are clear parallels between China's struggles and America's challenges. Both economies face rising debt. Both face housing stress. Both face demographic shifts. Both face geopolitical uncertainty. But there are also important differences. The United States has a more flexible economic system. Markets adjust faster. Capital flows more freely. Innovation remains strong. China's centralized control limits flexibility and transparency. However, flexibility alone is not a guarantee of safety. If structural problems go unaddressed, even resilient systems can weaken over time. Part 4. Can the U.S. avoid China's fate? Avoiding China's fate will require action. The United States must confront rising debt responsibly. Fiscal discipline matters. Long-term sustainability matters. Housing affordability must be addressed. Supply constraints, speculation, and inequality cannot be ignored. The labor market must evolve in ways that create stability, not just flexibility. Education, retraining, and investment in new industries are critical. Geopolitical strategy must balance competition with cooperation. Economic isolation carries risks. The path forward is difficult, but not impossible. Conclusion: China's economic struggles did not appear overnight. They were the result of years of imbalance, over-reliance on debt, demographic shifts, and policy decisions. The United States is not China, but it is not immune to similar forces. Rising debt, housing pressure, demographic change, geopolitical tension. These are warning signs, not predictions. Whether the U.S. follows China's path depends on choices made today. Understanding these parallels matters. Because in economics, history does not repeat exactly, but it often rhymes. And the warnings are becoming harder to ignore.